Good evening, everyone. I will now call to order the August 26, 2025 regular meeting of the Public Safety Commission. Mr. Tiet, please call the roll.
Chair Holguin,
Present.
Vice Chair Liu,
Present.
Commissioner G,
Present.
Commissioner Cervantes, Commissioner Munoz,
Present.
Commissioner Sanko,
Present.
Commissioner Reza. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Tiet. Do we have any public comments this evening?
We have one public comment from Yvonne LaRose.
Go ahead, Mr. Rose. Thank you.
Turn on the microphone. Good evening, and I'm coming to you because the turmoil that we have going on in our nation has been of significant concern to me, and I was reading through June's minutes, and I'm not as scared and feeling defenseless as I was then. Instead, I'm now angry and motivated and seeking to get answers to how we can defend ourselves. In spite of the fact that we are mandated to be a sanctuary city by state law, that's not stopping these raids and these detentions and deportations and the dangers that are being imposed upon citizens everywhere now in 5 different states across the nation. Senator Perez and Representative Fong have issued Know Your Rights cards, and I wanted to draw your attention to those. There is a webinar that was produced by Families First that goes through training how to handle de-escalation situations so that a person can calmly walk away from the scene. And I would like to call your attention to those resources. After getting those, I did additional research because it wasn't telling me what people can do once they have been apprehended by ICE, National Guard, and the other military personnel who are conducting these raids. And I found massive amounts of information, phone numbers of immigration lawyers and legal assistance sites. And I would like to be able to share that information with you as well so that it can be disseminated to our population. I've also already approached our librarian with regard to setting up workshops that will educate and train people on what to do in case the emergency visits either them or family or friends. And I would like to put it out there that I would like to move forward in sharing that information with the commission so that the information can be disseminated in an appropriate way, or at least let me know what the appropriate way is to disseminate that information. I think we all deserve to live in a place where we can freely go and come and be safe. And at this moment, this is all I can say, but I would like permission to make a presentation with regard to this additional material. Quite extensive. I think it's going to be more than just 3 minutes. But I think it's very, very crucial that we provide this information to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Mr. Tiet, do we have any other public comment?
We have one more public comment from Roxy Ortiz.
There we go. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Roxy Ortiz, a community member. And first of all, I would like to thank you for changing the time to an evening time to accommodate those working individuals. So I really appreciate that. I come here for two comments, actually one announcement and one comment. I just want to share that South Pasadena Christian Church continues to do their homeless support services the second Saturday of the month. They're located down the street on the corner of Linden and Fremont. And what we do is we provide a hot meal, we provide a hot shower, clothing, and basic needs such as shoes, hygiene kits, and anything else that our homeless community may need. And if we don't have it, we do obtain it. So I'm sorry I didn't bring any flyers with me. Perhaps next time I can bring a stash to distribute. So I just wanted to share that with you and then invite the community and yourselves to come and check out our homeless program at South Pasadena Christian Church. The second is a comment that I wanted to specifically focus and target it on our PD and inquire if there's any plans or discussions to implement a blue envelope program here in the city. Most of the other law enforcement around the state has started to implement this, and this is in particular for our individuals with developmental disabilities, and it's technically a blue envelope that they carry with them to really optimize the interaction with law enforcement, given the circumstances in recent events. This leads to a productive interaction between law enforcement and the individuals with developmental disabilities, to a positive outcome in terms of how to support them, how to identify and communicating with them. We hope that the police department would partner with the local regional center here, Eastern LA Regional Center, down the street on Fremont and Mission in Alhambra. Our Inland Regional Center down in San Bernardino has a very robust blue envelope program. They have started to get the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department as well as many local police departments to get on board with that. So I'm hoping that the South Pasadena PD will consider implementing a blue envelope program. There's currently possible legislation, Senate Bill 664 by, Senate Bill 664 by Senator Bosch. That is currently a 2-year bill that will be reintroduced in January, and hopefully we can get the city to support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tiet, are there any further public comments?
We have a public comment from Allison.
Hello, good evening. My name is Allison, and I am a Girl Scout working on my Gold Award project in emergency preparedness. I'm partnering with the South Pasadena Fire Department to host a community emergency preparedness fair on October 18th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the fire station. The goal of this event is to give families practical tools and knowledge to be ready for emergencies, whether that's creating a family plan, knowing what supplies to have on hand, or learning how to stay safe during different situations. I encourage you to attend and bring your neighbors, friends, and family. Together, we can keep our community safe and prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Appreciate it very much. Mr. Tiet, are there any further public comments?
No public comment.
Okay, seeing no further public comment, moving on to agenda item number 2 for the evening. Fire Chief Greg Lloyd will now present on fire hazard severity zones in local response area.
Good evening, Commissioners. Greg Lloyd, Fire Chief. I'm here to give you an update. As you recall, back in April, I came and presented before you with some of the options and the plans. I'm happy to say that we went before council in a study session and were able to come up with a good viable option for fire hazard severity zones for that. And so just to kind of review, As we know that the fire hazard severity zones came about as a result of a number of destructive fires, the 1980 Panorama Fire in San Bernardino County, as well as the 1991 Tunnel Fire, also known as the Oakland Hills Fire. In 2021, Senate Bill 63 required all three zones to be published. That's the very high, the high, and the moderate. And the State Fire Marshal released those maps on March 24th of 2025. So they fall under Government Public Resource Code 4202 that talks about designating those zones, as well as Government Code 51178 that shows that using models based on fuel loading, slope, and fire weather and other relevant factors as identified by the State Fire Marshal as a major cause of wildfire spread. The big thing to remember that we always want to reemphasize, because something that's a significant pain point for our community, as well as a lot of communities through the state of California, is the insurance services and the insurances and either cancellation or increase of rates. It's good to know, or it's important to know, that this is a hazard map and not a risk map. If you talk to the insurance companies, they base a lot of their determinations on risk maps. And the difference between the two is that the hazard map looks at the physical conditions of the environment without any mitigation strategies. So any home hardening or defensible space, it doesn't take into that. But it basically just says that based on the topography and the weather in the area, this is a high hazard. And so risk deals with the potential damage that a fire can do under existing conditions, accounting for the mitigation efforts, whereas a hazard does not. So just to reemphasize the CAL FIRE methodology and why we went through the entire process, their big starting point is to divide the land into wildland and non-wildland areas. In order to be considered a wildland area, you needed to have 200 acres of contiguous fuel beds. We don't have that within the city of South Pasadena. And so as a result, we become a non-wildland area. When you're a non-wildland area, your topography or your city is not put through the formulas of the CAL FIRE methodology. What happens is it becomes an ember cast model from an adjacent wildland. And so based on that, we see that the western edge of the Monterey Hills has become now a very high fire hazard severity zone. This gave us some concerns, and we went and met with the state on 2 separate occasions and talked to them about that, showed them that what we had done in 2022 in designating the Monterey Hills as a high fire hazard severity zone. They admittedly didn't look at it. They admittedly just said, look, we're focused on the wildland areas. If it's a non-wildland area, it fell under an ember cast model. So as a result of that, this is the map that was released on March 24th of 2025. And as you can see, it completely doesn't take into consideration about 2/3 of the Monterey Hills in that. So the western edge of the Arroyo, the western edge of the Monterey Hills, along towards the south edge of the Monterey Hills. And because this is a hazard map and it's designed as education, we wanted to make sure that our residents were aware of the hazards that were involved so that they could be prepared. So this was what was codified in 2022 as part of the code adoption process, Ordinance 2368, that identified from the western edge of Meridian to the city border and the south of Monterey to the border was considered high. So as a result, these were our concerns. There's 660 total acres within the Monterey Hills, and 122 of them are fuel beds, basically. Those 122 acres were not accounted for in the State Fire Marshal's Hazard Severity Zone map. So what does this mean? So for a very high fire hazard severity zone, here are the requirements. First and foremost, it has to be adopted by ordinance. We go to council on the 17th for first reading, and then in October for the second reading and adoption of that. All new construction must use fire-resistant materials as listed in Chapter 7A of the California Building Code. Defensible space clearance falls under AB 3074, which will be going into effect in January, which starts to designate the zones, including the 0 zone. If you're involved in any of the discussions around this, you'll know that that is a highly contentious assembly bill, and I can tell you because that assembly bill was passed in 2023, and we've still yet to see it implemented. So there's a lot of discussions. There continues to be a lot of discussions about what can or cannot be within the zero zone. Why is this important? This is important because it goes into effect for new construction in January of 2026 and is retroactive, which means all people within the very high fire hazard severity zone will have to become in compliance by 2029. You have annual defensible space inspections, real estate disclosure, as well as a subdivision map disclosure and an update to the safety element. And that's just for the very high. The high, once again, adopted by ordinance, all new construction must use the fire resistant materials out of Chapter 7A, and then it's just the standard 100-foot defensible space clearance that is existing, as well as the real estate disclosure. So we talked about this, right? The AB 3074 signed into law in 2023. It's taken 3 years and a lot of discussion to go into effect. And then it talks about zero clearance of combustible materials within 0 to 5 feet of buildings. What that actually looks like is still under debate. Is it everything? Is it mature trees is okay? Are potted plants okay? So there's still a lot of robust discussion going on at the state level about this. New construction compliance for January 2026 and existing property compliance January 1 of 2029. So as a result of that, under council direction and staff, we provided different options. And this was the option that staff felt was the best because it takes what we currently had existing and applies it to the new map from the state. Now, it's important to note that the state fire marshal and the code was very clear in that we cannot reduce the hazard of any zone at all. And that's a source of a lot of contention going on right now. I was just in the California League of Cities debrief for the fire hazard severity zone maps, and some places in Northern California that are designated very high have since been completely developed and they're nothing but concrete, but they're still considered very high. So there's some changes going through, and hopefully those will come forward. But as it stands right now, what you have is the existing map that has changed in 2 ways. One, we have snapped the lines to property lines and streets. It makes it a whole lot more less confusing for our community. And so if a zone border was pushing through a particular property, if it was bisecting it, then that entire property went to the next highest severity zone. And that was the direction that we got from the state fire marshal's office, that you couldn't reduce a zone, you had to make that entire property that higher zone. And so that's where you're seeing some things of the change, some changes between the original state fire marshal map and this one. And then the second part of this is that we have added the municipal code section of the Monterey Hills being designated as a high. You see some of the moderate areas are missing. The moderate areas were just a buffer zone that was added by the state, and we wanted to be, staff wanted to be true to their word of not adding anything in particular. So what we've done is just snapped it to the streets and to property lines, and then added or brought the existing high fire hazard severity zone into the map as well. And so you can see another copy of it right here. So what are the impacts? We've already pretty much discussed this, and the importance of really educating our folks as to the hazards that they have that are around. And let me go back. I'll go ahead and go back to the map. You're blurring me. So that's the so that's the old map, right? And so then we'll go to the new map. So for that, per ordinance, the map was supposed to be adopted within 120 days. We reached out to the state, told them that we weren't going to meet that. They said, okay, just work on it and get yourself squared away. The reason we're doing that is because we wanted to do a community outreach effort. So we have a couple of things. We have two community events, one happening on September 4th at the Monterey Hills Elementary School and one happening on September 9th at the Arroyo Vista Elementary School. We are starting now, we started this morning putting out door hangers, and our goal is to hit everybody within the high and the very high fire hazard severity zones to let them know of the community meetings. It also has a QR code for the map on it. And then we're also attending various community events such as there is a PTA back to school picnic for the school district, as well as a number of the farmers markets that are going on. And we have these flyers as well. So our goal is to reach out, have the community educated and understand so that when we come before council on September 17th, that there's an opportunity for the public to understand what's happening and comment if necessary. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you would have.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate the presentation. I do have some questions, but first I'll look to my colleagues on the dais. Commissioner G.
Hi, could you educate us on who's going to bear the financial burden of having to upkeep to code? Is it the property owner?
Yes.
And
Yeah, so the property owner is responsible for the maintenance of their private property, as it is now with a 100-foot defensible space in those areas and that. So it basically, and this is a source of a lot of the discussion, the impact that it will have in asking for existing property owners to retrofit or to change their property if they are in the very high fire hazard severity zone to, to come into compliance with that. And so right now, there's still room for discussion, and that will be the second part of our education. We'll be educating especially those residents within the very high fire hazard severity zone is what does this look like? We're working with Public Works on updating a vegetation management standard so that instead of us being secluded to this is what you can't do, and we can say, here's some examples of what you can do, so that we're trying to provide some education. But ultimately, yes, it does fall under the property owner.
I just have two more questions then.
Sure.
If it does fall upon the property owner, I feel that it will affect property values, that people might want to move out. And are we addressing that? So that's my second question. And my third and final question is, I don't know if there's any city funding or state funding to help out property owners. I mean, I feel like there might not be, but, for some cities, for, renovation or to bring things up to code, some cities have budgeted for that or offer discounts. Is that something our city can look into?
It's certainly something that we can look into, and as part of some of the comments that we're receiving, this is some of those ideas or thoughts that we can bring back to council as feedback that we've received from the public to look into that. I can tell you that presently there are a couple of wildfire grants that are out there. There's the Wildfire Protection Grant and the Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program. The disadvantage of those is, I'll give you the example of the HMGP, that's 3 years away. So although we're applying for it, if we were to be awarded, it would be 3 years from now. So that doesn't necessarily help people. And it's really just a one-time, not an annual. And in fact, in that program, they ask, how are you going to maintain this once you've used the grant funds? And so it's something that we budget for vacant properties within the city, that we budget for the abatement, so we're taking care of our lands. But then we're certainly open to options or opportunities, and that can be some of the feedback that we take back to council.
Commissioner G, you good?
Oh,
Anything else?
and to answer your other question, you're absolutely right about the property values and all of that, and those discussions are taking place at all levels, up including through the state with that. So your concern is absolutely shared.
I have a question. You mentioned that in the high-risk areas, they were talking about making it mandatory or whatever that the new construction be made with fire retardant materials or whatever.
Fire-resistant material.
fire resistant, excuse me. And my question for you is, if they do it just for the high-risk areas, if we're talking about new construction, why not enforce it to all new constructions? That for these people will be pretty much protected in case of there is a fire, because you really never know when there's a fire going to happen in the area where you live. So I think if we are concerned about the well-being of all the citizens, I think it behooves everybody to know that the house next to you or the new construction or whatever is not going to go up in smoke in no time, because they have used this new material. And especially we have, we're talking about a lot of new construction going on because of this addition that the state is pushing for us to add new units. And why not make those built with fire-resistant material? And that way, it will make it less likely for the rest of the places to catch on fire. That's just my suggestion.
Certainly. And you're absolutely correct. And to be, perfectly candid, the California Building Code has fire-resistive construction for the fire of the building itself. So fire safety corridors, residential sprinkler programs, 90-minute, 1-hour, 3-hour walls that help slow or restrict the spread of fire of a structure fire. Chapter 70 out of the building code specifically directs to fire-resistive construction based on a wildfire. So it's really about resistive to embers or things coming up against the house. And anything that's going to be within the high or the very high, so anything within the red or the orange, will all be subject to those new building code standards. And that will help to improve that as they go throughout.
Except that you are talking about a very small area. We are talking about developing the rest of the city the way the state wants us to develop it. We should address that for the entire city, not just that particular area that is considered in a danger zone or a hazardous zone. And this is just, to me, seems like it's common sense. If we can be proactive on the approach we take to fires, what you call it on fire is not a far distant memory.
Right.
And the whole thing went down, went just in flames. So I think something like this would be very helpful for, in terms of keeping the city safe.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanko?
Thank you, Chief. Couple questions. First of all, what do you foresee being the mechanics of enforcement on this? And then second of all, just taking a step back, how does having this degree of clearance in these very high-risk areas help your members in the case of a fire breaking out? Help us to understand the value added of these measures.
Sure. So I'll answer the first part of your question about the enforcement piece of that. And so the enforcement piece is something that we're working currently within in revamping a lot of the code and that code process to look at. And the way we typically would do it, there would be a notice, there would then be a series of notices, and then there would become a violation in that. And then it would end up being some kind of either basically ultimately depending on how council wants to address it, whether it's just a violation and a notice or if there's a fine attached to it. Typically with vacant properties, we have the ability to go on and abate the property through that. The process when you have a structure on the house really changes it, because now you're starting to talk about some Fourth Amendment issues and those types of things, and about going onto somebody's land to abate it if there's somebody present there. And so we don't want to get into that. We could go through, there are there are inspection warrants or abatement warrants that we can go through the process if it does present an imminent threat. The goal has always been to get compliance from the community, to get compliance from the landowner as far as getting that, because that's the best to protect their property as well as the best to protect the properties that are around them. And then as far as with your second question going, I'm blanking real quick. I know.
Yeah, if these measures move forward, assuming they move forward, what is the value added to your members in the face of a sudden fire? And how does it change the outcome
Yeah.
having that degree of clearance?
So the value added for us is in time. So the time that if one of the things that we look at in wildfire spread is the continuity of the fuels. So the more continuous the fuel is, the more it can gain traction, speed, intensity, and move forward. So if we're reducing the continuity of fuels, that slows the fire spread. And then any of those fires or any heat that's held up against the house, the closer to the house it is, the closer that radiant heat is that's going to elevate the temperature of that building to its ignition temperature to then start the structure. And then we have a transition from a vegetation fire to a structure fire. So really the short answer is that it buys us time to be able to get out in front of it, to be able to put resources in place, and then even in essentially not have to devote resources to that particular area. So we look at homes in different stances, and if they have the defensible space and they have the fire resistant construction, we can just monitor that house and then we can devote resources. So it's also a force multiplier for us. So the more houses that are defended, the better chance we have of protecting the entire area with limited resources.
I think especially in looking at this map and seeing how the burden of this is going to be unequally shared, and there's going to be community engagement to discuss this, and we have an amazing community with really smart people who are dialed in. I think explaining the thought process and the value added and what that allows you to do with those extra minutes, especially in areas where it's hard to access oftentimes, is going to be essential to this community engagement process.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that feedback.
Commissioner Munoz?
Chief, kind of following up on Commissioner G's, having been, I've been a firefighter, but haven't been in some fire evacuation scenarios myself over the years. My concern too is, in South Pasadena, Tree City, over the years, there's been some residents, I recall, who've taken upon themselves to manage trees that are in front of the property. And it's not only can be expensive, but there's also been fines for them. And then if you have to remove dead trees, that cost falls upon the homeowner as well. So my concern also is, although the brush clearance is absolutely essential, something to consider for the city is what will the impact be to the homeowners who are tasked with doing that brush clearance, given the fact that the city has very strict guidelines regarding touching any tree in the city.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even look at it. You can't even look at a tree sideways in the city.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fined. So just something to consider. I know I know you've considered that. You've been doing this a long time, but.
Well, I'm happy to tell you that a revision to the tree ordinance has come before council to help streamline a lot of those processes, especially as it relates to non-native trees. And we can make sure to get you all of the information on that ordinance to give you all of those details. What I can tell you, and because I've answered this question a number of times for people about the fire code and the fire hazard severity zones and trees, is that there are no requirements or there's nothing listed within the code that talks about removal of a tree unless it is an imminent health, fire safe or life safety hazard. What we talk about with healthy trees is limbing them up to about 6 feet so that the brush underneath it doesn't create a ladder fuel that then transitions the fire up into the crown or up into the tree. And so for that purpose, we really just encourage that healthy tree to be just limbed up and so that it protects it. And, as long as it's not within 10 feet of the chimney or things like that, where it's, creating that hazard, then, it can be trimmed back. you know, from speaking from the fire code perspective. But, yeah, the tree ordinance just went through just this last, right, this last council meeting as far as its first reading.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Appreciate the presentation. First, I just have a clarification question on, it looks like slide 11, which is, talks about the requirements for the very high zones.
Uh-huh.
Um, Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Um, Does construction, because it doesn't say new construction, but you told us new construction, right?
Right.
Does that include add-ons and ADUs, or is it from ground up construction?
It's any new construction. If you're constructing a new ADU, they'll have to use the fire resistive. They'll have to have the fire resistive construction.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question I have is in April, I don't know if you have the presentation, but on, I think it was slide 14, it talks about mitigation options. Some of them were like 20 feet width requirements, parking restrictions, things like that. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that, any of that going in front of council? I noticed it wasn't included in this presentation. Is that still being fine-tuned, or is there a reason that wasn't included?
So that wasn't included in this presentation because we're focusing on the map adoption. For the sake of the time that we need, that we're, you know, the time frame for adoption of this. And I know that the parking issue is something that is a concern, loss of parking and those things. And so we, rather than potentially slow this process up with that, we separated them. I can tell you that we're still going to be talking about it. We're still discussing it. There is a cost impact involved with that as far as the setting of signs, the curbage and those things. So we're also looking at funding options for that as they come through. But during the study session, we received council support for the enforcement of Fire Code 503, which talks about 20 feet wide, 13 feet 6 high, to make sure that fire access roads are clear and that we're doing that. And so the option they chose was to do that, was to follow along those lines. And so we are still pursuing that.
Okay, yeah, I ask because I wonder if, is there a PD aspect to that too in terms of enforcement? Because, or you can answer and then I'll
No,
tell you,
yeah,
I'll
no,
tell you why.
Yeah, no, there is. Yeah, so that, I mean, PD currently right now enforces any of the fire lanes or codes and as it relates to that.
Okay, yeah, I ask because the most recent red flag days that we had, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, somewhere around there, there was an incident in one of the communities that's highlighted as a high zone now, where your engine was unable to get through because of blocking both sides of the street on a very narrow street. And it cost, I don't know if you've talked to anybody who was on that call, but it cost them valuable time. Luckily, I don't believe that it was a life-threatening call. But even the regulations on the books, the right side of the street that was being blocked is a hydrant and is red, and is habitually blocked. So I think if there's a way to coordinate with PD on enforcing what's currently on the books before we look at adding more to the books, that might be helpful.
Absolutely, and our PD does a great job of, when we call them, they'll send somebody out pretty quickly to go ahead and take care of that enforcement on those aspects, but we certainly can look at opportunities to improve on any of those. And I think I remember what was the street name? Was it
Bonita,
Bonita?
Anianta.
Yeah, I don't know. We did have another one where we had a similar situation as well. It may not have been on the red flag day, but it was in that, and the crew had to walk. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, this one was, it was like a trailer that the people had to physically move before your crew could get through.
Okay. It's a significant concern for the fire department, and it's something that you could drive through the hills on a daily basis and find something in one way or another. So we're hoping that beyond just the enforcement piece, that the education or the engineering piece, by putting the signs up, we'll communicate better. Our goal is to, hopefully, have people be compliant. And so if we can make sure that it's visible and easy for them, that's certainly the goal. Enforcement, if, is an option, but it's certainly, we're not going to be able to, I mean, we could dedicate, a number of people to the hills on a daily basis.
No, totally. Yeah, I think education is definitely the way to go on that. I think this particular incident, and then I'll move on in a sec, but I think this particular incident is interesting because it wasn't a homeowner, it was a construction crew. So I don't know how far education would go on that, but thank you for that, Chief.
There is something that we are going to be looking at with Public Works and making sure that if there's ever an encroachment permit, if there's ever construction taking place, that we get notified of that so that we can, if we can, alter our response routes, because that does happen at times.
Great, thank you. Not really a question per se, but a comment. I have noticed activity in the hills from your inspector. I think that's great. That shows that you guys are out there enforcing. Maybe just for the benefit of everyone, could you tell us a little bit about what he's doing up there? And
So currently, we already do defensible space inspections for all the properties within the hills. We've been doing that ever since the hills have been designated as a high fire hazard severity zone. And that's just the basic 100-foot defensible space. And that really deals with dead vegetation, junk, things that are going to be combustible. That 100-foot defensible space is just, it's not clear with nothing. Basically what we want is healthy landscape that's live and, that is vibrant, that has a moisture content, fire resistant if possible. But the 100-foot defensible space really deals with cleaning up any of the dead branches, leaves, vegetation, making sure everything is healthy.
yeah, that's great. Thank you. Just procedural question. This is a receive and file, right? You're not asking for any action.
No, I'm just giving you updates to receive and file, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions from colleagues? No? Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Moving on to this evening's item number 3 on the agenda, Detective Richard Lee will now present on South Pasadena Police Department's NIBRS report for June and July of 2025. I almost said 2015. 2025. Thanks, Detective.
Good evening. Yes, good evening. The reports that you see on, and I handed out as well, is our NIBRS report. We used to give out what was called the Uniform Crime Report, called the UCR. That was a standard by the FBI, and they categorized crimes into 8 different categories, like arson, murder, burglary, grand theft auto, and thefts. And thefts was just a catch-all for everything, shoplift, auto burgs. There's no differential. It was all compiled into one. Now we use what's called NIBRS, which stands for National Incident-Based Reporting Systems, still by the FBI. It just expanded on the category. So instead of 8, there's like 30. So it's much more robust, you might say that, with that information. I'm sorry. Okay, this is an older one. I actually expanded on on the presentation that you see. This was an older version. I revised it to make it to expand it, more information on it, you might say. I gave you the hard copy of it. I'll go back to the old-fashioned way for the people in the audience, printed copies.
While you're doing that, Detective, if you don't mind, I just a little closer to the mic when you're speaking. Thank you.
How about now? Better? Okay. My apologies. Pretty much on the first slide that you see, we have the number of arrests. This is from May to June. The one I printed out, the hard copy is June, July. The adult arrests for June was 42, July is 29. So we have a decrease of 31%. Juveniles arrest was 0. Next column goes to citations, parking citations, which is anything for like a parking citation for like a red, park in the red zone, park in the hydrants, consider that. We have a decrease of 19%. Our moving citations, which is anything from a speeding ticket, those increased 114%, 291 compared to 136 the previous month. Our calls for service is anything that our dispatcher calls an officer out for, whether it's a call for just, I need assistance, it could be a transfer to the fire, anything calls for service will be included in that. Our traffic collisions, we do have an increase of overall 55%. We have a lot of hit and runs, non-injuries. Those are our biggest categories for accidents. And it's not surprising considering the volume of cars that go through our city anyway, so traffic accidents are typically high. The category below that on the printed page, which is not shown, is our extended calls for service. I have a running balance for the year. Total right now, by the end of July, we're about down 15% for total calls for service. Okay, so this was a previous version that we made on the NIBRs. On the printed paper, I've expanded it a lot more, as you can see. There's a dark line right down the middle on the printed paper on the left. I'll talk about that column first. Those are the different Group A offenses that used to be just 8. As you can see now, there's more than 30 different offenses now that's more detailed. So instead of just plain theft, now you have it all broken down from shoplifting, purse snatch, thefts of motor vehicles, accessories like catalytic converters. That will all fall into that categories. And the Group A is further defined, subcategorized as crimes against persons, like murder, kidnapping, rape, sodomy, fondling. And you have crimes against property. That's where the burglaries occur, thefts, and crimes against society, which is the narcotics, drugs arrests. Overall, we're just slightly above 16% from the month of June. But keep in mind about this percentage, because we are talking about small numbers. So like if you see a big increase of, say, from robberies, in June we had 1, in July we had 3, percent change is 200%. And the percentage-wise, it does sound like a lot, but you look at the raw numbers, it's from 1 to 3. And most of the robberies we get are what we call Estes robberies. Basically, it's a person who shoplifts from a market, and he uses force, pushes the employee out of the way, and runs out of the store. That's considered a robbery by force or fear. One of the other bigger changes we had between the 2 months would be our scams. The false pretense, swindling, confidence. We had 1 in June, we had 9 in July. And those are just scams. Anything from computer pop-ups, tech support scam. Oh my gosh, I got to call that number, and they ask for money, to actually fraud, or what we call deception theft, distraction thefts from the markets, or especially from the bank ATMs. Those are definitely high. On the right side of the column, between the 2 dark lines, we created a running balance between this time last year and this time, well, this year. So if you can see from June through July of 2024, compared to June through July of 2025, we're slightly down about 9%. Oops. I apologize, last sheet probably is not included. That's on the page 4. I apologize for the small print, but I was trying to get all 12 months into a sheet of paper. This is our running balance of our NIBRs statistics for the year of 2025, breaking down January, February, March, April, May, through July. And it just shows the comparison between each month and a running total at the far right column. So this will be the presentation that I'll be giving the command staff from now on, and we can submit it to the Public Safety Commission as well. This would be the new format. I apologize that it didn't make the PowerPoint, the slide, That was the old version. So we definitely made it expanded and definitely more information.
Awesome. Thank you, Detective. Appreciate it. Colleagues, any questions?
Detective, I'd love to pick your brain. It looks like there was a substantial decrease in burglaries in year-to-date last year in 2024 versus 2025. Also in motor vehicle thefts, excuse me, in theft of motor vehicle. There's also a substantial decrease from last year to this year. What do you attribute those to? Or can we attribute those to anything?
Well, the theft from motor vehicles, those are like anything from like a auto burglary to like a unlocked vehicle. That's what that means. Motor vehicle theft, which is a couple lines, that means I steal the whole car. But it's hard to contribute with exactly the cause, you know. Typically, a lot of the suspects that we've seen, simply they just walk down the street and pull on door handles. And we had a lot of those last year. And you know, thankfully, a lot of the residents now, hopefully, you know, through our campaigns, Neighborhood Watch, lock your doors for your cars. That's probably a big reduction there. We're still getting some of the unlocked vehicles, but definitely not as many as we had last year. That people were just leaving their car doors unlocked, and people would just simply just pull up on door handles, take whatever they want. And sadly, in some cases, people left the car keys in the car, so they just, hey, take the whole car.
And then just
I'm sorry, Commissioner, if you don't mind, I see Councilmember Ferguson. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to thank all you folks for your participation. I have another meeting, so I'm not going to be able to stay around to the close. So I just wanted to kind of bring up, there's a Neighborhood Watch meeting tomorrow, and I wanted to figure out, are we going to be presenting some of these stats within the context of like burglaries within the Hills area during tomorrow's like 7 p.m. meeting? Just a lot of, I've heard from a lot of constituents in the Hills regarding that and some like ongoing concern. And I know that we have the thing scheduled tomorrow, so I just wanted to kind of put that on your radar.
Yes, and I will, and it would be targeted specifically for the Monterey Hills area, because that's the target audience, you might say. So I
Right,
wouldn't
right.
be adding so much of the, you know, Raymond Hill area.
Right,
No.
right. So yeah, but I mean, I think being able to kind of present the community with the report, I think is very helpful. And I think if there's a layer of granularity that can get specific to like some of that, the like geospatially what's happening around that neighborhood, I think it'd be extremely helpful. So thank you all. And the one last thing that I wanted to kind of just to kind of put on the commission's radar is just as we talk about safety and public safety, that we consider like when we have traffic fatalities and things like that, that we start thinking about how we quantify those and consider those for future policy and engineering design and decision making. So just something to kind of throw out there in the world to kind of for us start thinking about as we kind of move forward. So
Appreciate it, Councilmember. Do you have a report while you're up here? Because I know you got to go, but
no, I don't.
You're good?
I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Senko, appreciate the point of privilege there. You want to continue your questioning?
my last question was, I see a little bit of an uptick in drug and narcotic violations. Any common themes emerging around that, or any way you can describe the nature of those?
No, just a lot of good officers when they do traffic stops, they're realizing they're finding, you know, narcotics or drug paraphernalia on the persons. And to your, I'm sorry, I didn't finish answering your question about the burglaries you mentioned, the numbers. That section on the burglaries, it's a combination of commercial and residential. Unfortunately, they didn't break it down like residential and commercial. So like last year, like if they hit the storage unit, the public storage unit, if the person got in there and they hit 4 or 5 units, those are considered separate burgs. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've had a couple of instances where we don't know it's the same person or not, but hit multiple storage units. And because each storage unit is rented by a different person, they're considered separate burglaries. So that's why the numbers could be high as well.
Commissioner Senko, anything else? No? Colleagues, anyone else? No? Okay, thank you, Detective. I do have a couple quick questions for you. First on page 2, at the bottom under calls for service, I see August through December as 0, and those months obviously haven't happened yet. Is there any way to show it as like a dash or an NA or something other, because then you see the negative 100%, and I just don't want people to be confused and think, oh, we had no calls.
For the future. Yes, I could probably do that. It's just a formula that I just calculate on one column and just drag the whole formula down. So that's the reason why it shows that, because the computer doesn't realize that, yes, this month hasn't started yet, and I have a 0. So yes, I could put a dash instead of the 0, and I should cure that.
Okay, because I was gonna ask a question. I'm like, wait, but that hasn't happened yet. So, okay, thank you. Going to the next page, then, we talked about, or you mentioned robbery, an increase from 1 in June to 3 in July, which is a 200% increase. But then if I can direct you to theft from building, which is about a third of the way down, 0 in June and 4 in July, but we're showing not calculable. My question is around the phrase "not calculable" and when the computer spits that out and when it doesn't, because, I mean, my simple math, that would look like an increase of 400% to me. So just if you could explain when not calculable is used versus a specific number.
Sure. Basically, with a formula as simple math, you can't divide by 0. So that's why it shows up. That's the basics of it. If you go to your computer and try to put any number divided by 0, the computer's going to put cannot divide by 0.
Okay, so it's used when there's 0 and then a higher number than 0.
Correct. If the preceding month is a 0 and the next month is, say, any number, you can't get a increase because there's 0. You can't divide by 0 by the formula.
Okay, but the opposite is not true, right? When it's
Correct.
a number and then 0, that shows up as a number.
Correct. Because now it's a decrease because you have a number to start with.
Okay. My algebra teacher is going to be very upset with me. I'm sorry.
I've had to explain this before many times to the staff.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. It looks like you mentioned at the very bottom we're at a decrease of 9% year to date change, which is awesome. A narrative that I'm hearing out in the community is, now that we have a public information officer, which is great, I think that's a very valuable asset for the city to have. But that person sends out these press releases of a crime happened, here's a press release. So something that I'm hearing is, oh my God, crime is on the rise in South Pass. So if you could just reiterate or speak to, we're actually down this year, right?
Well, yes, as of July, because this month won't be over till next week, but yes, correct.
Okay, so it's that narrative is maybe just more attributable to the fact that the information is getting out there that these crimes are happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean more crimes are happening.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
They're probably just highlighting one specific crime that we want to write about because it shows something significant happened, like it was a significant arrest.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues?
Just one more question, actually. Forgive me, but a few months ago, we heard about a alternate sentencing mechanism, and I don't recall if it was for, and forgive me if I'm getting my technical terms wrong here. Forgive me if I don't know if it was just for juveniles or for adults as well. but it was a mechanism to avoid going to jail for certain low acuity or low level infractions. And I was wondering if there had been any additional individuals enrolled in that over the course of this year.
As far as enrollment, I don't know. What you're talking about is called a diversion. Diversion, that's what it was called. Typically for juveniles, hey, instead of going, like you said, going to jail, we're going to divert you to a treatment program type of thing like that, or a different thing. And as long as you complete that, you're fine. If you fail to complete it, then it goes back to the criminal side of it.
If for ongoing reports, it would be great to hear about any new successes in that program. That sounded of significant interest. I thought that was a really cool program that had been rolled out.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure we can add that in there, but our stats show we had 0 arrests for juveniles, so I couldn't say anything right now.
Any other questions, colleagues? No? Seeing none, thank you, Detective Lee. We really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 4 on this evening's agenda, the minutes of the Public Safety Commission regular meeting of June 9th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I approve.
Do I have a second? Okay, the motion is to approve the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Mr. Tiet, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Holguin,
Aye.
Vice Chair Liu,
Aye.
Commissioner G, Commissioner Cervantes, Commissioner Munoz,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanko, Commissioner Reza. Motion passed.
Thank you. Motion passed. Moving on to information reports. Item number 5 is City Council Liaison Communications. We already heard from Councilmember Ferguson, so moving on to item number 6, Staff Liaison Communications. I do not see anyone from PD, but Fire?
No, we have no updates.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving right along. Item number 7, Commissioner Communications. Any of my colleagues have anything they would like to share?
I do. I had several people that I spoken to that they mentioned to me that they were concerned about some talk of some folks saying that they were against the flood cameras invading their privacy. And what I wanted to reiterate when I talked to them was the flood cameras are very important for the police department because they have an eye out on the street. Well, the next question that came up is this information being shared with the federal government, with the feds, with ICE or whatever? And I didn't know the answer to that. So I would like to know what is the approach for here with our flood cameras, and do we share the information?
Commissioner Cervantes, I can speak to that just as far as what I've heard from Chief Zielinski, because there have been a number of presentations on this, and I don't want to, speak out of turn, but what I can tell you is that we do not share that information with the federal government. There are a number of laws that are in place for the state of California that prevent us from sharing or assisting anything in the federal government. But as it stands right now, we do not share our information with the federal government for any the flock license plate reading cameras.
Thank you. This is very important because people should be made aware of this. And And I do feel that it's a very important help for the police to have. It's very, very important. It has helped catch a lot of bad guys stealing property and whatever and whatnot. So I think it's extremely important, but the folks need to be reassured that this is not going to be held against them.
Great. And I know that those concerns, the police chief, Chief Selinsky, has brought those forth, and they're having discussions with Flock as to how to further help people feel more comfortable with all of those different aspects.
Commissioner Cervantes, I also believe, I don't know if you remember, in the June meeting, Chief Selinsky did indicate that that data is not shared with the federal authorities, and that he routinely puts it out to the community at meetings and anytime he goes before the public in the city. So it was something that he mentioned in the last meeting, I believe in June.
Yeah, what I'm trying to avoid is people under the excuse or the cover that this is violating people's privacy to go against this particular system that we have, which is so important to have. We really have to have that. It's a third or fourth eye for the police department. We don't have that many police out there watching. So I think it's very, very important to have this program. I think that the naysayers should say, no, hey, it is not violating anybody's privacy except for the people that are committing crimes. However, whoever has any kind of fears, the fear should be allowed to put to rest.
Thank you. Commissioner Liu?
Yeah, yeah, that's also a topic I want to share about the ARPR, the license plate reader. I think 1 month ago, July 16th, I was able to attend the meeting. It's very intense, probably 10 or more people provided the public comments. There are 60 pages about this topic for the city council meeting. It's very, very hard to read. The next meeting will be 3 months later. So the city council directed staff to provide more information about how to protect those information to be shared against the federal government. That's the concern. So there's no privacy issue for the data to share with normal people. However, there could be a way that federal government, the law enforcement, could be able to reach it, to abuse it. That's the concern. Yeah, I think definitely the community should voice our concern. And this is very important tools. I expressed my personal opinion on the meeting. I think if people have concern about the abusement of the data, there should be other technical way to solve it instead of to demolish it. That's the worst case. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Senko?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something. Earlier this year, this commission had made it a strategic priority to assess cardiac arrest preparedness. This comes in alignment with a county-wide task force to do the same by promoting plan creation at a community level amongst all our 911 fire departments as well as our local hospitals. And I just wanted to provide a 1 or 2 line update that we're still in the process of building a team. We've had outreach to, of course, our fire department, but also identified a representative from the police department, working with the school board, somebody from the school board, as well as we're now seeking somebody from the PTA. We've spoken to the nurse educator from the fire department, Lynn, and also engaged with a couple of the local skilled nursing facilities / assisted living center locations. The ultimate goal of this is to have a diverse team develop a look and a plan at how our community is performing currently in cardiac arrest preparedness and how we can build towards the future using a well-vetted tool called the Citizen CPR Heart Safe Communities program. And so more to come on this in the coming months. I just want to let you guys know that hadn't been forgotten, and appreciate the engagement from our public safety teams in this slow process, but something that will be moving forward.
Thank you. Anything else, colleagues? No? Chief, I do have a question for you. I think since our last meeting, you and your department have taken delivery of some new apparatus. Is that correct?
We did take delivery of our ambulance in late April. And so that's been pushed in and put into service with that. So that's, that's in service now. And so that's been a great asset for us, for our responders. It's a little bit smaller, so a little bit easier to navigate the hills. So we're really excited about that. And to your point that you were talking about, so we will be at Allison's, the Public Safety Day that we're partnering with. Sidewalk CPR will be one of the booths where the public can come and learn about that. So we'll be pushing that piece out as well.
And still on apparatus, we're have an order in on a new command vehicle. Is that right?
We have order in on a new fire engine. So right now, currently, the build times for fire engines are still about 48 months. So we had to order now to get it in 2029, which will put us at about a 12-year replacement cycle for our current. We do have a shared command vehicle with San Marino. And so that got finished up here in the last few months as well. And you might have seen that. It's a Ford F-250 that's driving around. And so that replaced the older Tahoe that was being used as the command vehicle for the division chief of San Marino and South Pasadena.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
With no further items, I will now adjourn today's regular meeting at 6:49 p.m. on Tuesday, August 26th. Our next meeting will take place on September 23rd, 2025 at 4:30 p.m., not 5:30, but 4:30 p.m. due to a conflict in this meeting space. Thank you.